So, are there any questions? Yes, Professor Harrison. You were saying that the periodic table is predictive. What exactly does that mean? I mean, I understand how it organizes the elements, but where's the prediction? Prediction? Okay, let's see. Look at our periodic table again. Okay, it is a group of elements in the categories that share certain properties, right? Mm-hmm. And it is arranged according to increasing atomic number, which is the number of protons in each atom of an element. Right. Well, our early versions of the periodic table had gaps, missing elements. Every time you had one more proton, you had another element. And then, oops, there have been atomic number for which there's no known element. And the prediction was that the element with that atomic number existed somewhere, but it just haven't been found yet. And its location in the table would tell you what properties that you should have. It was really pretty exciting for scientists at that time to find these missing elements and confirm their predictive properties. And actually, that reminds us as a very good example of all these. Element 43. See on the table the symbol for element 42 and 44. Well, in early versions of the table, there was no symbol for element 43 protons because no element with 43 protons had been discovered yet. So the periodic table had a gap between element 42 and 44. And then in 1925, a team of chemists led by scientists named ae4ta4va4vt claimed they had found element 43. They had been using a relatively new technology called X-ray spectroscopy, and they were using this to examine an old sample, and they claimed that they'd found an element with 43 protons, and they named it Mazuria. Professor Harrison, then how come in my prediction periodic table here, element 43 is TC, and that's technetium, right? Okay, let me add that. Actually, that's the point I'm coming to. Hardly anyone believed that the tax discovered the new element. X-ray spectroscopy was a new method at that time, and they were never able to isolate enough material to have a available sample to convince everyone the discovery. So they were discredited. But then, 12 years later, in 1937, a different team became the first to synthesize the element using a cyclotron, and that element had 43 protons. That's right. But they, but they, nailed it to technetium to emphasize that it was artificially created with technology. And people thought that the synthesizing hmm? and people thought that the synthesizing these elements, making it artif artificially was the only way to get it. We still haven't found it currently in nature. Now, element 43 would be called magnesium or technetium is radioactive. Why does that matter? What's true of radioactive elements? It decays its tons into other elements. Oh, so does that explain why I was missing in periodic table? Exactly. Because of radioactive decay, element 43 doesn't last very long. And therefore, if that berry had been present on Earth, it would decay ages ago. So the Mazurian people were obviously wrong, and the technician people were right? Well, that was then. Now we know the element 43 does occur naturally. It can be naturally generated from uranium atoms that has spontaneous split. And guess what? The ore sample that the Mazurian group was working with had plenty of uranium enough to sample just that one were generated from split uranium decayed very quickly. And here's an incredible irony. ae4ta4va4vwa4vt, the chemist, read that Mazurian group, and she was the first to suggest that uranium could break up into small pieces, but she didn't know that that was the difference over her own discovery of element 43. So, is my version of periodic table wrong? Should element 43 really be called Mazurian? Maybe, but no. It's hard to tell for sure after all this time. If ae4ta4va's group did discover element 43, they didn't publish enough details on their method or instruments for us to know for sure. But I'd like to think element 43 was discovered twice. As a Mazurian, it was the first element to discover that occurs in nature only from spontaneous fission, and as a technician, it was the first element discovered in the laboratory. And of course, it was an element that the periodic table led us to expect existed before anyone had found it or made it.